Can players actually misuse magical items? Welcome to my channel. I focus on tabletop role-playing games, video games, and science fiction. I'm not sure if you've actually heard this phrase or not. I always thought it was humorous. You can pound those screws in real good with that pipe wrench. So in real life, you see somebody, I'm not sure if you ever have. I have seen somebody pounding in screws. You don't have a screwdriver and you got screws and you want to attach two boards. So instead of using a nail, you use a screw and you pound it in. Now, pounding it in with a pipe wrench sort of takes it to the absurd level. But the question comes up is, what about when you're playing a game like Dungeons and Dragons? Can players actually abuse a magic item? The example that I heard, which was when I was watching the one video on Nerdarchy, was DM was complaining about the players were putting a mirror of opposition inside a bag of holding. Now I thought, I did some analysis on what will fit and so on. So yes, it will fit in a bag of holding. But the question is that abusing a magic item? Abusing the power, the characters are doing something. To me, no, that's not abuse. It means that you've got some players who have an interesting imagination, who come up with unique ideas of how to do things. They should be celebrated and congratulated on their ideas. That to me is what makes the game fun and interesting. If you're just about, oh, we have to, that's unfair because then they don't do the combat. Oh, but that's the whole purpose of the game is rolling dice and killing things. If that's what you play, you're not playing a role-playing game. You're playing a dice rolling game. That's what you're playing. You're not playing a game where characters progress and advance. Because if they progress and advance, they should come up with new ideas and new approaches. If they're doing the same thing over and over and over again, that to me is boredom. I mean, if I'm going to do that, why don't I play a game of Monopoly or Sorry or some other dice rolling game? Those can be a lot of fun, but that's what you're talking about, is you're not advancing the character, you're not learning new things, you're not doing interesting and things like that, and coming up with unique ways to solve problems. I think I've mentioned this in another video that I did about a player of mine who had made a bit of gold and was trying to figure out what he wanted to do with his gold. And we'd run across rot grubs, which is a fun. That was one of my favorite original Dungeons and Dragons creatures, rot grubs. You put them in a lot of things, but he came up with the idea of a rot grub spreader. He was out fertilizing the lawn, and you have the spreader where you put the fertilizer in the little spreader and you crank it and it sprays it. And he came up with this idea, I want to build a rot grub spreader. So we talked about it, and he spent lots and lots of money because this is a very dangerous thing. First off, you have to build a male that is impervious to rot grubs and a whole costume that's impervious to rot grubs. And then you have to build this big tank that you load up with rot grubs, and the crank that you have to twist to throw it, and how far can it spread rot grubs over everything. It's totally designed for mass terror because you wade into a group of things that are living and you spread rot grubs that will just kill them all. But it was an interesting, humorous idea that was a lot of fun to work with the player to create. And this whole idea of, oh, you have to do it exactly the way the book is, and it's all about rolling dice. I'm sorry. that's not the kind of games I want to play. I don't want to just roll dice. Combat is an important part of the game, but if you can come up with a better way to defeat your enemy, I guess I've read too much of Sun Tzu, and the idea is if you can defeat your enemy without swinging a weapon, that's the best approach. If you can terrorize the enemy without the need to actually go in and fight them, that should be celebrated and should be encouraged. Now, you don't run into that much in like Dungeons and Dragons and the other role-playing games that you run into where you intimidate the enemy. And that's partially the problem with the mechanics of the game. But you can, as a DM, easily add that. They run into a band of thieves. And the thieves realize that they are outmatched, so they turn and run. Now, does the party hunt them down and kill them, or do they let them escape and help build their reputation as a powerful force to be dealt with? Those are things to consider. And it just like that, if they come up with unique and interesting ways to use things, that is not abusing the magic item. That is playing the game the way I think it should be played, the way that it makes it much more fun, that it's no longer just about, oh, what monster do we find in the next room that we have to kill? So I'd like to hear your comments about that. I have to mention something, and that is I found the picture, if you saw the thumbnail, in the description below. I found it, and it was a pin on Pinterest, and I had to dig from, that was a pin of somebody else's pin of somebody else's pin, and I finally found it because I was looking for where the original art was, and I finally found it on DeviantArt, and the person who does this, so I got the link on DeviantArt where you can see some of the other pictures. I really thought they were great. And they actually sell them. The guy or person, I don't know if it's a guy or a gal, makes them and will sell them to you. They seem a bit expensive and pricey, but if you're into that kind of weird stuff, that you can buy that. And I put the link down there for you to take a look at. But I'd like to hear your comments about the idea of how do you handle it when players become inventive? Are you discouraging characters coming up with new ways to solve problems? Or are you encouraging them? Or do you think I'm just blowing hot air? I'd like to hear your comments. Thank you for watching my video. I look forward to learning what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, press the thumbs up button. You can subscribe by clicking the link in the lower left. If you are interested, there are links to more content.